Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of live crypto Q&A on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I have with us Vortex, of course, the mastermind behind the CryptoCast network, a really smart guy in the Bitcoin space. Also, we have with us BTC Sessions, Bitcoin Benny. Benny, he's got a YouTube channel called BTC Sessions. He's got some cool videos that different collaborations. Hi, Benny. You're our special guest for today. So do you mind just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself, how you got into Bitcoin, and kind of where your path has led you thus far?
Yeah, sure. First off, thank you guys for having me. I love being here and chatting with you guys. So, yeah, my name is Ben. I'm Canadian, and I've been into crypto since early 2014. I run my channel, BTC Sessions, which I started in 2016. A lot of that is how-tos, basics for new people coming into the space, and a lot of interviews with industry leaders, different people, and overarching concepts. So I've been doing that since early 2016. Like I said, I kind of got into crypto just by, I saw a few articles, kind of felt like I'd missed the boat a few times as I saw the price rising, but then decided to really bunker down to do my research and realized what kind of innovation was happening here. And over time, I've moved from Bitcoin to dabbling in other cryptos back to just Bitcoin. And so that was kind of like a progression that I think everybody goes to. Yeah, I kind of saw the value in Bitcoin and then started looking at these other projects and getting curious. But then over time, you know, talking with people like Vortex, reading Savadine's Bitcoin Standard book, things like that, I kind of actually started leaning again back towards, I guess you could call me a maximalist. I'm not super, how would I put that? I'm not too abrasive about it, unless you're on Twitter, in which case, sure, I can say some things that are maybe construed that way. But yeah, so I've been in that for a while, and now I work for a company called Satoshi Portal with a guy named Francis Pouliot, who I believe has been on CryptoCast and lots of times and worked with Vortex on lots of material. So I'm super excited to work with him, and they do a lot of payment processing here in Canada. So you can pay any Canadian bill with Bitcoin through them, through their platform called Bills.
Very cool. Thank you for taking the time to, have a chat with us today. So as a reminder to our viewers today, we have a thing called Super Chat enabled on here. So we will be answering as many questions as we can from the live chat box. But if you really want your question to be addressed, we will prioritize those that come with a tip from the Super Chat, or you can also support this channel by giving a donation, a Bitcoin donation, using the QR code that you can find on the YouTube channel or on the website CryptoCast Network. So we appreciate your support. And let me check the chat real quick to see if we have any questions. If not, I have a few pre-made, so we can.
I don't think there's any in the chat yet. Heidi, you can go ahead and let's get to a first of our. We always like to start out with a couple of our pre-made ones to get the show ready to go. So go ahead, Heidi.
Okay, for sure. Okay, so Ben, this one is going to be, okay, so I feel like this is going to be a little bit of an like an interview show, kind of talking about like crypto lifestyle and being a content creator for YouTube or different platforms. What was the direction of your life going before cryptocurrency, and how has cryptocurrency affected the direction of your life?
Ooh, it has fully affected it for the better. I will say that. I gotta say, as far as career-wise, I'm happier than I've ever been in my entire life. Before this, my old job, and people are always like, oh, your old job was so cool, though. I used to teach little kids how to break dance. So I would go to schools and I would host in-school residencies. And so instead of the regular dance unit. I come in for a week and I teach breakdancing, popping, and locking, and all this different stuff. And then they do a performance at the end of the week. And don't get me wrong, I really loved that. But when I got into Bitcoin, I could not concentrate on what I used to do anymore. All of my attention just went to this one thing, and I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't pry myself away from this to focus on everything. And so I started reaching out to other companies and trying to get little side jobs here and there. And over time, I was able to make it my full time. So people think it's weird, that transition, like you used to teach dance and now you're in crypto. But with the way I've approached it, it has worked well, because the idea of breaking down complex movements for school-age children to understand into digestible little bite-sized pieces, it's very similar to breaking down complicated technology for adults. The skill set in general is the same, as long as you understand the underlying concept. So yeah, that's kind of where it's led me. And now I'm so happy that I get to make content and work in the space. It's just also interesting.
That's very cool. I think we've all kind of turned into educators in some form or another. Yeah, I mean, maybe you can do like a viral video dance to a Bitcoin rap song or something.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I was actually, Naomi Brockwell was asking if we could do a duet, because I also sing in an a cappella group. So she wants to do some sort of a Bitcoin related duet. So if Naomi's ever watching this, I'm doing that. We're for sure doing it.
Very cool. Okay, it is locked and loaded. One more question.
I can answer that one too.
Yeah, Vortex. Okay.
Just a couple comments. Well, I just have a couple comments real quick before we go to one more question. You know, it is interesting. First of all, Benny, I never knew about the break dancing. That's some pretty awesome stuff, man.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, because you know, we've seen videos of Benny tweet out every once in a while of him dancing at some wedding or something like that. So you know, he's always up to something. Very cool with Benny. But no, I just share your sentiment. You know, where I think a lot of people what we call go down the rabbit hole. Essentially, you know, that's basically the phrase that we tend to use these days, which is exactly what Benny describes. Which is once you find Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, specifically for me, it was Bitcoin. You know, I just couldn't really focus on much else. All of my attention was essentially going towards Bitcoin, and that is why, you know, at some point you just sort of have to give back. You know, once you start learning about this and stuff like this, like you say, Heidi, at some point you learn so much that you want to start educating others and telling others, and so that's where like the education sort of phase comes in. First, it's like the rabbit hole, then it's like the education phase, and then maybe do something more specialized in the space that only or that you could, for example, lead at, right? Because it's all about following your passion and following your passion to the point to where you can do something better than most everybody else. And the reason why you can do that better than anybody else is because that is your passion. So it's pretty awesome to see, you know, more and more people in the crypto space be able to follow their passions, because generally people would like to do more creative things than some of their day jobs. And not everybody hates their day job, but you know, I can definitely agree that if you think you're happy, you can be a lot happier if you're following your passion truly. And there's a lot of stuff out there in the crypto space to do that. And again, we really encourage people to go after the education part, because it's so early, it's so new. We need more and more people podcasting, educating, telling people the important properties of what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin.
For sure. I mean, that's kind of the whole idea that why Bitcoin exists too. It was kind of like not like philanthropy, but kind of like for the good of people, to give them another option outside of fiat, like governmental currencies. And so now it's inspired this whole new generation of people who have learned about it and caught on that fire of inspiration and passion, and yeah, applying their different skill sets to it, whether it's singing like Naomi Brockwell. She's awesome with those great songs that she has. And with just conversations and inspiring people, you know, to have a conversation about, you know, different options. So yeah, very cool. Let me see. I think I did see a question here kind of addressing this concept of being a Bitcoin maximalist. It said, isn't it a bit closed-minded and cultish to believe that there can never be a better, stronger technology than Bitcoin at any time, now or in the future? So maybe, Ben, you want to answer that one, having been all about Bitcoin, faded into the altcoins, and then found yourself back to Bitcoin. Maybe explain your journey and how you came to that conclusion.
Yeah. So I think that's it can get misconstrued that Bitcoin maximalism is saying that there could never ever be anything better. In my view of maximalism is that I've looked across everything based on the reason I came into the space. I should verify that first. When I came in, I was looking for a separation of money and state. I was looking for something that was censorship resistant, that was the most decentralized I believe it can get at current time. There were a bevy of qualities that I was looking for, including things like sound money. And so when I look across the space and I start to look at different projects, first of all, the fact that Satoshi has ghosted is actually a huge selling point for me, because there's no longer that person that you can point to. And even as leaders try to separate themselves from projects, for instance, Charlie Lee, he sold his Litecoin, kind of stepped back, but he's still involved. People can always point to Charlie and say, hey, there's that figurehead. And if he says something that is a little bit, let's say he totally ghosts Litecoin completely tomorrow and isn't involved, and then years later he starts commenting on it, that still has an impact on the currency itself. So it's that the qualities that I've seen in Bitcoin and some of the ways, like the way that it was created, there's just kind of this perfect storm to contribute to all of these qualities that I find valuable. And I haven't seen that in other currencies. And while there's been interesting innovations and things like that created in some of these other systems, in the end, I came here for sound money and separation of money and state, censorship resistance, and all of these other things. And I see the most of that in Bitcoin. What really gets me is things like, oh, well, we've got more transactions per second, or we can do this and that. If the value of your cryptocurrency is how many transactions per second it is, you're doing it wrong. So, I mean, all of these things can be built onto Bitcoin, and that's kind of where I've been leaning, because what sacrifices have been made to allow for more transactions per second? What sacrifices have been made to allow for some of these other innovations? And the answer is you've always been stealing from maybe decentralization, from the idea that there's a leader in this project and there's not in this one. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And I'm not doing it to be, I guess, confrontational with people, although like Twitter, that's just kind of the nature of Twitter, but that's a different beast. But my viewpoint is just all the qualities that I really want, the most important ones, I put those first, and I haven't seen any other cryptocurrency get anywhere close to that. So that's where I'm coming from.
I couldn't get my mute off. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I agree too. The decentralization aspect of Bitcoin is far more prevalent than in any other cryptocurrency network thus far. Not to say, I also, you know, if Bitcoin is going to be upended at any point, it's going to have to be something that's like magnitudes better, because at this point, it's established itself for the past 10 years as being the market trend, like the leader in the market. So the reputation it's had so far, it's there for a reason. Vortex, do you have anything to add to this?
For sure. And of course, you know, of course, we're always going to get like some of these BCH people, or some of these doubters, or even at this point, I believe this person at this point is trolling on our live chat about asking us, you know, about Bitcoin and Bitcoin history. But I'll just say a couple of quick words, you know, and then we can move on. But essentially, there's varying degrees of this Bitcoin maximalism, these terms, these arbitrary terms that serve to only divide people. Really, as Benny said it already, you know, people like Benny and myself, we're in it for the sound money. We're in it for the decentralization. We're in it for the permissionless value transfer. We are in it because Bitcoin is a base money that cannot be reduced. It is irreducible. It is the end and final settlement. Something like BCH is just an altcoin, and everything else is essentially just an altcoin. There is nobody else essentially trying to create a digital gold, sound money for the world. So essentially, you know, the second argument he was talking about was, you know, Satoshi's moving their coins, or Satoshi moving coins. Of course, Satoshi is not going to move the coins. The intent is clear. I advise everybody to do their archaeological evidence and digging and see. Go through Satoshi's forums. Go through everything Satoshi said. The intent is clear. He tried to. He very much reduced his mining power when the rest of the network was coming online. He did so many things with clear intent of what he wanted to do, and that intent, all of that intent, all of it shows that he will never move those coins. He, she, they will never move the coins. And so if that's, your value proposition, or if you're basing your value proposition of Bitcoin on some large percentage that's going to happen, you are doing it wrong. And Bitcoin is 10 years going strong, and there is no sign of it slowing down.
Well, I wouldn't mind tagging on one more thing to that. Let's say Satoshi is alive, and this is just a hypothetical, but let's say that he's alive and he hasn't burned the keys to that money. If he hasn't moved the billions upon billions of dollars yet, then he probably, if he's alive and well and could have moved those coins and taken some profit, then he's clearly the person with the greatest resolve on the entire planet, because I don't know who would be able to resist that temptation, regardless of what kind of an idealist they are. Those billions of dollars, I feel like personally, I think Satoshi may have died or purposely burned those keys, but I don't think they're accessible anymore. I'm sure people will be willing to debate that. But if he's purposely not moving them, then he is a greater man than I and many others out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. It's still similar to the Lindy effect. Every day that the coins don't move, there is a bigger chance that they will not move. And again, the standard value proposition for Bitcoin is that there is a only very small chance that those coins would ever move sub 0.001%. So we can move on to something more educational for the viewers, and more towards hopefully to the topics that we'd like to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to go ahead and supplement with my own questions to try to get people more on track. So, okay, let's get back to the basics. Ben, I hope this is a yes to this question, but have you ever purchased anything in Bitcoin? And what was it? When was it? And was that a very memorable experience for you?
Oh yeah. I've purchased plenty of things with Bitcoin. Actually, early on, it was late 2014. There's a company. It doesn't exist anymore, but they were called Broker, like Brawker. And essentially they were, what were they? They were kind of like, what's the Amazon? It's a purse.io. It's kind of like a purse.io service, except for any type of bill really that you wanted to pay, you could match up with somebody and they'd pay it online for you. They hired me to use their service and any other means necessary to live entirely on Bitcoin for a month in 2014. So I did, and I used them. I used a service called coincards.ca, a guy out of Vancouver, where you can buy gift cards and things like that. I used Purse to buy a few things. I did a lot, and then I was also using I think it still exists, but Fold. There's an app called Fold where essentially on your phone you can buy Starbucks with Bitcoin. You can convert it and then use your card, and then you can actually convert it back into Bitcoin if there's a balance left over. So I did lots of that kind of stuff, and it was super fun looking back near the end of 2017, going, oh, hey, remember that time we spent $3 grand at Starbucks? So there's lots of that, but I mean, it goes in line with the guy who bought 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. And so you look back and you're like, oh, maybe I should have saved some of that, but it is all part of the journey. And I still do support.
Oh no. Okay. We almost lost you, Benny. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No worries. I was going to say, I still do use Bitcoin to buy certain things, particularly if it's somebody like a creative person in the community that I want to support and use Bitcoin to buy something with. That's the instances where I will use Bitcoin, or if it's the most convenient payment method for me at the time. But I do try to hodl as much as I can now.
For sure. What do you think of Bakkt and their plans for like the payment settlement system, specifically letting merchants kind of short Bitcoin in a way that they can agree on a settlement price? So it kind of hedges against volatility. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, people are continually gonna build different ways of speculating on the price of Bitcoin. There's always going to be that. It's human nature. I think from a merchant's perspective, especially somebody who maybe is running a business that doesn't particularly want the cryptocurrency, but wants to, I guess, corner that market where people can still have that option to pay. It's additional customers for them. It helps kind of keep the economy of Bitcoin moving. So I mean, it's in my mind, I don't mind it, and it's going to happen anyways. When you get into things like ETFs and stuff like that, I do worry about things like rehypothecation, where you can lend out Bitcoin multiple times. But I think that will be stifled a little bit by the fact you can actually audit on the base layer how much Bitcoin is where. And so if you see, oh, well, if we look across these multiple asset holders, there's like 23 million Bitcoin. Well, we're going to know that somebody somewhere is fudging their numbers. So I think it'll be a little bit self-correcting if people get a little, if they start being a little riskier than they should. So yeah, I'm all for it. Sure.
Vortex, what are your thoughts on using Bitcoin for purchases? Have you done it? And what are your thoughts on Bakkt and their attempts at bringing mass adoption that way?
Sure. So great questions. Like I'm really loving Benny's answers too, man. Like he's taking all the good stuff. No, he's taking all the wind out of it. No, thank you, Benny, for your answers, man. We really appreciate it. You know, for me personally, when it comes to spending Bitcoin, like I pretty much, like everybody else, sort of bought mining equipment way back in 2012 and 2013, thinking it's going to be amazing. I'm just going to mine, and I can just get all this Bitcoin. And of course, what turned out to be is not that, right? Obviously, Bitcoin mining is extremely expensive, and at this point, very, very extremely competitive. Really, at this point, you have to have, you have to start out with something like 50 plus grand and equipment, and have access to really, really cheap electricity to sort of get started with that. So that's really the only kind of things I actually bought with Bitcoin was some mining equipment back in the early days. But really after that, I always kind of knew that Bitcoin was supposed to be more valuable than what it was at the time, way back in 2012, 2013. The value proposition for Bitcoin, of course, is having only this finite supply of 21 million. So I knew that at some point, someday, Bitcoin value, of course, had to rise. At that time, I didn't really understand the actual economics of it. When you compare it to like market caps of things like gold, like Benny said, when you start comparing that, doing the math of, gold's market cap 7 trillion divided by Bitcoin's 21 million. I didn't start doing that type of math back then. I just knew that it had to become more valuable because of this finite asset. We've never had anything like this before in the planet. We've come close to real scarcity, but we've never had real scarcity. And we have certainly, of course, have never had digital scarcity. So that's just something that's really, really amazing. And the only thing that does that really is Bitcoin. So for me, I just make sure that really, and people need to understand too that there's this other myth that's going around that Bitcoin, there has there's only a small percentage of Bitcoin, and a large percentage of Bitcoin is in a small percentage of hands, and that's really not so true, because people tend to use that myth when they're talking about Bitcoin wallets, how there's most of the Bitcoin is only in a few wallets, and that's of course because exchanges. Large institutions and these types of people and companies usually tend to hold most of people's Bitcoin for them. And so you can have millions of people's Bitcoin in a single wallet. So that's really important to understand. And of course, Bitcoin has a finite asset, as I've just been talking about. They're not going to make any more Bitcoin after 21 million, which means that you'll have to spend your Bitcoin to make more Bitcoin, and which means that Bitcoin will eventually get out into the hands of more and more people. It continues to have lower volatility year over year, and it continues to be more dispersed year over year. So that's pretty much the story with that. And when it comes to Bakkt, really, I'm pretty excited about Bakkt, because this is the custodial physical delivery solution that we've sort of been waiting for Wall Street to be able to get in with the institutional investors, to be able to do some real things there. And Bakkt is probably the most closest to a solution that I really approve of, because of that physical delivery. There's no real chance of rehypothecation. And of course, Wall Street, that's what they love to do. They love to create more claims on assets than than actually exist, and that's what they do. So of course the community, the Bitcoin community, will be mindful of this. We will be watching for this. Bitcoin is viewed by more people than any other stock and any other financial network on the planet. So I can assure you, if there is any kind of craziness, we'll notice. And again, it doesn't affect the hodlers. If you are holding your Bitcoin, in your private, if you're holding your private keys, Wall Street doesn't affect you. There's nothing that they can do. Remember, Wall Street needs Bitcoin, or Bitcoin. Wall Street needs Bitcoin. Basically, at the end of the day, like I like to say, really, Wall Street wants Bitcoin, but Bitcoin doesn't need Wall Street. Bitcoin doesn't need Wall Street, but Wall Street, I guarantee you, wants Bitcoin. So they're going to try to come in. They're going to do their things. They're going to play their tricks, and we're just going to keep holding as hodlers of last resort. We are, the final force between Bitcoin's price threshold. So we're the ones that eventually are going to keep Bitcoin at a certain price threshold, and really a certain economic value, because we believe in digital scarcity. We believe in digital gold. We believe that this is the best and most sound money that the planet has ever seen. We believe that this is the internet of money. So we're going to keep an eye on it.
For sure. That's actually a really good point that you made about the exchanges holding large amounts of Bitcoin in one wallet. That's something that I actually haven't thought of yet. So that's a really good thing to perpetuate. So let me see. One question, it's kind of going on the back of Backed. Ben, what are some of the trends you've seen in crypto world over the last year or two, especially since you've been on your YouTube channel, probably a little bit more tuned into what people are interested in, trying to appeal to that a little bit? What are some trends that you're seeing over the last year? Maybe what are you anticipating in 2019?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting, especially lumping 2017 in with that, because when I first got into Bitcoin, I was basically riding the wave back down. So we were coming off those 2013 highs, and so I lived through a few years where more or less it was either going down or it was pretty flat. And so I gained a lot of insight, I think, from watching the insanity of 2017 and what happened with the whole space. And I think now, looking at it, it becomes much more obvious when these manias are happening, and I'm much less prone to worry about a lot of the FUD articles and things like that come out when they do. So I guess as far as trends go, it's the same old story, just with a new set of assets, right? Like people FOMO in when they start going up, and people are always looking for the next thing. Everybody's wanting to find, well, this could overtake it. This could be the next big thing. And so everybody's looking for that steal of a deal. And I mean, some people did make a ton of money last year, but it depends when they sold too. Like if you were riding Ripple up last year and you sold near the end of the year, good for you. You called it. But if you've held on since then, the vast majority of people are hurting. Even I tweeted a couple, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that we're now at the point where we've just hit levels on Ethereum when priced in Bitcoin that we haven't seen since 2016. And so basically anybody who bought later than March, mid to late March of 2017 and held their Ether, they basically rode that entire wave up and all the way back down. And they would have been better off or basically have broken even had they just held their Bitcoin. So I've learned that if you're going to be diving in and out of some of these things that you think may be the next big thing, you've also got to be taking some profits, hopefully back into Bitcoin. And as far as scams that happen, there's going to be lots of people that are predatory out there that are trying to separate you from your money. So there's a lot of that, and people new to the space can benefit from doing some reading. I think the most important thing that I've seen is the people that have taken the time to understand Bitcoin first and use that as a litmus test against other coins are the people that most understand the value proposition and are better off looking at various assets and really defining why does that change matter, or does it? So if anything, the trend that I've noticed is since the end of the bull market, people that have stuck around are starting to educate themselves, and I'm enjoying seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true. Like, Bitcoin isn't the first attempt at some digital money, but it is the first to address the Byzantine generals problem and the counterparty risk and all this stuff. So all these other altcoins that people, you know, have been trying to go to, if you understand Bitcoin first, you can see, number one, how they're different, and number two, how they're centralized, hopefully, and understand that that is a weakness and something that in the long term could definitely be a detriment. So yeah, Vortex, do you have any insights on trends that people are, do you think everyone's going to be kind of making their way? Because what I think is this bear market is kind of testing the grounds of all these kind of weaker projects, and they're not all going to bounce back up when the bull market comes through. So that's probably going to help people realize too, like, the solidity that Bitcoin has established thus far. What kind of trends do you think are happening towards the end of this year or 2019 or in the past?
Sure. So really the big thing, well, I'll talk about a couple things, but let's go specifically for Bitcoin first. Really the biggest things on everybody's mind is two things, and that is the Lightning Network and the Liquid Network. The Lightning Network, of course, is for regular payments, regular retail payments, speeding that up, being able to have the merchant adoption drive a big wave of Bitcoin with that second layer technology. And then we have Liquid, which is this amazing back-end inter-settlement network for things like exchanges and OTC desks and larger players like banks, so that they can actually have sort of a more private back end that's still pegged to Bitcoin. What that allows them to do is that allows them to instantly transfer Bitcoin, within a minute or two settlement times, and they use confidential transactions, so nobody can actually see what's being transacted on the network except for, of course, the sender and receiver. So very, very, very interesting stuff there. So the Lightning, basically the main layers are going to be like Lightning on the top, Liquid on the back end, and then of course the base chain that we can always rely on. And that's what's beautiful, is that creating these side chains like Liquid, creating the second layers like Lightning, it keeps the base chain secure and decentralized and not bloated and not at risk. Doesn't increase the attack vector. So that's very, very important. Now, some more overall trends for the crypto space in general. Really what I'm seeing is 2017 was sort of the year of speculation, sort of the year of ICOs. The story was speculation. Speculation on ICOs, speculation on institutional investment. 2018, what I'm really seeing the story is sort of a learning, capitulation, learning, and building. That's what I'm sort of seeing for the story of 2018. Everybody's getting ready for the next bull run. We're all improving our systems, licking our wounds from that huge bull run, and getting prepared and ready to go for the next one. And so what I'm seeing of the story of 2019 is really going to be real world adoption, institutional investment. That's going to be really the big stories of 2019. Really, I think is real world adoption. That's what everybody's thinking of. It's no longer how can I pump my ICO. It's more like how can I create a project that is actually going to get traction over years, multi-years, over year. So that's what's really what I'm seeing. And again, what's really great is just at a personal level to see all of these people at Bitcoin meetups and crypto meetups, specifically Bitcoin meetups, really just to see some of these really intelligent people seizing opportunity in the crypto space and making it so they don't have to, of course, have a regular day job, making it so they can follow their passion in crypto. And that's what's really, really great to see, is that, a lot of these really intelligent people that aren't institutional investors, right, or that aren't accredited investors, still have the ability now with Bitcoin and crypto to be able to find opportunity in this space. And there's so much opportunity. And I see people all over the space seizing it, taking a little bit of risk and having it pay off. And that's what's really great to see, is again, just all of these people bettering themselves by following their passion, finding their niche in crypto.
Do you mind if I just jump in one last time here? Okay. So I know we're trying to get to lots of different people's questions. And I know you guys like to hop around, but I do want to respond to one thing I just saw in the chat. Okay. And so earlier on, Chris asked a question, and then I kind of answered reasons for being kind of maximalist. And then he was asking about grouping maybe perhaps some of what some view as the stronger projects in with other like crappy coins that everybody knows are scammy. It's not that I don't think that some people have come up with some great ideas technologically, but as far as a value proposition, as far as what I think is going to hold its value the longest, Bitcoin. And the perfect comparison for this, I would say, is Bitcoin and Litecoin. So Litecoin, I mean, I think it's great that we have a working more or less test net where we can try things, because Litecoin is so similar to Bitcoin. We can roll out things on Litecoin and see that they work and go, oh, this is a good idea for Bitcoin. But when you look at price points, if you look at the 2013 run, Litecoin had a crazy run and it went up, you know, to 40 something dollars or whatever, and then back down. And then this last run, it went up, and a lot of people thought it was like the greatest run in history for Litecoin. It went up to 300 and something dollars. It wasn't the greatest run in history if you're pricing in Bitcoin. Again, so in 2013, Litecoin got up to the price of between 4 and 5% of a Bitcoin. That was the peak. Well, in 2017, it didn't even reach half of that. It was up around 2 and a bit percent. Maybe depending on the exchange, you might have seen like 3%, but it didn't even get close to the previous all-time high, not even by half. So had you just sat on your Bitcoin for 5 years, even if you had tried to play the game of swinging around with Litecoin, you still would not have been better off by holding Litecoin. You would have been better off holding your Bitcoin. So that's what I'm saying is, as far as a value proposition for me, I prefer to hold Bitcoin because I think that through it all, in the end, that's where the value will be.
Yeah, that's also emphasizing the importance of getting yourself to value things in terms of Bitcoin, because when you're thinking about, especially as an investment and your different options, what better way than to compare it to Bitcoin? So I did have one question, kind of acting as devil's advocate here. I was thinking about this earlier today. If all of those over-the-counter trades happened on a public exchange, what do you think the reaction would be? Number one with sentiment, number two with the price of Bitcoin. Ben, what are your thoughts?
This is an interesting one for me because that's a lot of my previous job. I was working over the counter, and so I got to see what was kind of happening as people came in and did cash for Bitcoin, and you're not seeing those on exchanges. Although, I mean, we did still have to source funds through exchanges, but those OTC direct person to person, I think what you would see is the people with lots of money that are buying Bitcoin are buying through individual people. They're not going to exchanges. And so when it's down like this, I think there's actually a lot of buying happening that is not being affected that is not affecting these exchanges because it's all person to person. We're not seeing it. And it's very telling also who is coming in over the counter. And so when I see people through the bear market coming in, and I saw them FOMO in November, December, and then they're coming in May, June, July and selling everything. And then the odd person that comes in that I consider to be very, very intelligent, and days where it's totally dead and nobody's interested, they're coming in and they're buying a bit more. And so I think it's not just telling as far as volumes go, but it's also telling the type of people that are coming in and what they're doing and when. So I won't directly comment on what it would do to prices on exchanges, but that's just some of my insight from working OTC for the past year and a bit.
Yeah, it's also, I think too, like institutional investors tend to have a more optimistic view of Bitcoin now than the individuals, which is interesting because, it's kind of maybe not the hodler's the last resort, but
also too like regulatory certainty, is a big one too that I didn't mention. But that's another big part of the story. that's going to be in 2019 is there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be figured out. There's been a lot of things that have been figured out already. We've had a lot of hearings this year, the Senate hearings and things. So there's been a lot of stuff discussed. But again, like people are waking up. People are learning about this. Like you say, Heidi, people are learning and understanding. And again, the stuff is just continuing to spread. So really, with regulatory uncertainty, that's just one more pile on the bullishness that is Bitcoin that's going to be coming over the next year.
So one question here. Do you think the central banks can or will use crypto to hide their inflationary monetary policies? Ben, do you have any opinions on this?
I don't know how they would use crypto to hide that. It would just really highlight it. So, I mean, I feel like the advent of Bitcoin and just options when it comes to your local fiat currency are the worst nightmare of central bankers that have been driving the current monetary system. Reason being is it does exactly that. It highlights exactly what they've been doing. So as time goes on, I think people will start to realize that these insane bubbles in crypto, as the market cap of Bitcoin gets higher and higher and it starts to kind of even out, I think eventually what we'll see is the exact inverse of what our fiat currencies are doing. We'll see steady deflation and they will see steady inflation. And that will be super, super apparent as people have options of what to hold. And maybe they save $100 and then they buy $100 worth of Bitcoin and they just leave them sitting there. And then at the end of a year, 5 years, 10 years, they say, well, what's the purchasing power of what I'm holding now? So I think that it's just going to really, really shine a light on what people have really never been exposed to, which is what does it look like when we have a currency that isn't inflationary? What are the consequences of that? Because they're saying that we need inflation to drive the economy, but I think that's BS. I think that people always need to live. People need to eat. People need homes. People need transportation. People need a lot of stuff. And there's stuff that they just like to buy. And so all it does is it encourages people to think just a little bit harder about what they're spending their money on. If you're going to invest in something, but you also know that the purchasing power of your money is going to go up over time, then you're going to think, well, is my investment going to outpace my money? Whereas now you're thinking, my money is going to go down in purchasing power. What games can I play to avoid that from happening? So I think it just encourages responsibility. That's all.
Oh, absolutely. Like inflationary economy, that's like debt based. That's why for a lot of the economists now, when they think deflationary, that's so much trouble because everyone, like upper 90% of people in the US at least are in debt. And for them to think that debt would increase in price if it was a deflationary economy, that's horrifying. So yeah, for sure. To think that they could use crypto to hide their inflationary policies is definitely like kind of oxymoronic. It would definitely show how inflationary, in fact, their policies have been over the years. So Vortex, what are your thoughts on inflation, deflation, and what the heck the central banks are going to do about it?
Yeah, so, if you guys have been following me for a while, you probably know I only follow one person on Twitter, and that is really just to bring back attention and awareness to the original reasons why Bitcoin was created. And that, of course, was to create actual competition for the central banking cartel, for the fiat dollar regime. This really was humanity's kind of only answer. We've had no competition in government and money printing for hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of years. Just now, finally now with Bitcoin, central bankings can actually be kept in check with this finite amount of Bitcoin. So really, we're going to see all sorts of things. We're going to see countries try to create their own crypto. We're going to see maybe central banks try to create their own crypto. But remember, they're going up against real competition now, which is Bitcoin. And simply put, nothing, no fiat currency, no money printed by a central central bank could ever actually really compete with the most hardest, soundest money that we have, that is Bitcoin. Eventually, over time, it'll be like just hitting a brick wall. Eventually, they will, in really slow motion, eventually they will completely fall apart. The vehicle will be completely destroyed. And so, really, in my opinion, central banks don't have a really large role to play in the future when Bitcoin finally does succeed, when it really finally does become this global store of value for everybody in the coming decades. The central bank's role will be severely reduced. Their main power relies in the ability to create and print money and drive inflation. And at this point, we know that all of their inflation statistics are lies. They are all propaganda. None of it is actually true. There is so much hidden inflation and taxation, and so much taxation without representation, specifically in the U.S. and the EU, that at this point it's the jig is up, and that's why Bitcoin was created. And everybody in crypto knows this and understands this. At least everybody in Bitcoin. The multi-coin capital type of folks might not fully understand this, but this really is what it is. And of course, as we've seen, any type of large network like this eventually converges onto a single point. So, the world's languages converged on English, the web converged on JavaScript for the most part. And, the world's money will converge on top of Bitcoin. There will be plenty of other probably tokens and coins and things and all that kind of stuff, but most of it really will run over Bitcoin or run over the Lightning Network, which will be the main interoperable layer above Bitcoin and blockchain crypto in general that everybody will connect to and around. So, what I see in the future is central banks and regular banks and governments trying to play their old tricks that they always do, and they'll always, try to do their things. And but eventually, when try after try, attempt after attempt being going up against Bitcoin, the more times they try, each time is going to be more obvious than the last that it will fail. So we're just going to kind of play the waiting game, and everybody understands that Bitcoin is this long-term game. And really, like I said, yes, just to bring it home, guys. I mean, the enemies is not Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum or other crypto. Really, the enemy is the Bank of International Settlements, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank. These are the IMF. These are the real enemies that crypto is going to go up against and provide competition for the first time in a millennia. And that is the real excitement. And that's why it's Bitcoin, not blockchain.
Wait, it's Vortex. It sounds like you haven't diversified into the Coinbase basket that they've offered.
I know. I don't know what I'm thinking. I mean, they tell me that I could have made much more money by investing into this basket instead of just Bitcoin itself on the cherry pick time frame that they used. I don't know.
Yeah, crazy. I don't know, man.
So getting back to kind of focusing on or being able to practice your passions and using cryptocurrency as that kind of vehicle. And since we all do have different YouTube channels, I'm curious because it's something that I've been battling with a little bit with my own channel, especially through this bear market, is constantly worrying about what am I doing wrong? Why aren't I getting more subscribers, more views, more likes, whatever. So one thing that I've always tried to hold true to my own channel, at least, is to be educational, not to be a shill, and like to provide something that will actually benefit someone. So I'm curious, Benny, as someone with a YouTube channel, how do you balance? It is a balancing act between doing trending topics and creating things that will be, number one, like valuable over time. Maybe not necessarily clickbait, but so how do you balance between the two? And has that been something that you might be struggling with currently? Like me, I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, it was perfectly encapsulated during my first year on YouTube, as compared to my second year on YouTube, as compared to my third year on YouTube. 2016, nobody cared. I remember how difficult it was to get to 100 subscribers, and then I partied on the internet after I did. And it took me from early 2016 until New Year's Day 2017 to get to 1,000 subscribers. And then by the end of 2017, I was like 25,000 subscribers, something like that. And that was a big change from year to year. And now I barely eke up every week. And there's not much change, and viewership is down. And I think that just speaks to the more or less like the whims and I guess, how would I say that? Everybody's a little bipolar with crypto. So they're really excited about it, or they don't want to hear about it at all, other than the people that are really deep in it. But what I did find is some of the videos that I made back in 2016, in some of those early videos, the early videos were content that was useful for an extended period of time. So like I did a video on how to use a ledger, and I made it in the summer of 2016. Well, in 2017, that video was blowing up because everybody needed to learn how to use it, and ATMs and how to use different wallets and just basics, stuff like that. It lasts a long time. And I think the next bull run, I'll see those videos continue to get massive viewership. So it kind of ebbs and flows with the sentiment of the crowd. But for me, I've really just done whatever the hell I want, because I was still having fun in 2016 when I had just a few people commenting and asking questions. And then 2017, I couldn't keep up with all the questions. And now back to 2018, I can actually spend time and respond to questions and actually dive deeper into things. So, I mean, sure, it's nice when viewership is insane, but I just try to cover things that I'm passionate about. And now I also focus a little bit more on collaboration. So things like this where we get to chat, and people that may not have seen you guys on my channel now might come here, and vice versa. People that may not have seen me on your channel before now may go to mine. And I think this cross-pollination, there's no zero-sum game there. Everybody kind of benefits by collaborating with each other and getting different viewpoints. And I think one of the main things that I'm focusing on this year is the idea that I've skewed towards being a maximalist. There's a lot of people out there that talk about a lot of different altcoins and new projects and things like that. And I think my mission this year is to collaborate with some of those people and then just give reasonable explanations as to why I've skewed towards being more of a maximalist now. And maybe through doing that, some of their viewers might start to look at those reasons and go, oh, okay, I get that. And maybe I can help people have a better view of the space. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of having your own independent channel. You can do whatever the heck you want. So it's definitely always a learning experience. Vortex, what has been your experience? Because you've been in this space for a very long time, not to mention being kind of a public figure or like a content creator. So give us your wisdom of going through all of the bear and bull markets, and what are your insights here?
Yeah, it's kind of funny, people are, sometimes people ask me like, how did you know that was going to happen? Or just how did you predict this? And really it's just, I've been in the game so long, people. I've been here since 2012. I've seen a lot of things. I think Benny's been here since at least 2014. But yeah, I mean, we've seen so many things really at that point. Even from 2014, you can sort of see a lot of different trends repeat, and this is what we continue to see. And so, but first, I just want to say that we're all content creators here. We're all educators. I'm just so proud, to be among you guys. So happy that you guys are sharing this information for free. So just a big thanks to everybody here, for what we do. Because without us, really, they're gonna go to Coinbase, right? They're gonna go to freaking Rubini. They're gonna go to freaking Vinny. And so us here allows us to be able to answer these questions, and this is really great. So I remember back in the day, when I only had a few hundred followers, and I remember talking to Tone Vase, in some conference, some Bitcoin conference, like back in 2013 probably, and I'm just like, man. Maybe it was 2014, but I'm like, Tone, how did you get 2,000 followers, Tone? Like, how? I'm just like, I just saw it. It's just this huge pedestal, because remember, everybody in the space at that point had around a couple thousand followers. I think at that point, Andreas Antonopoulos maybe had 25,000, like maybe 30, more like 25,000 tops, 20 to 25,000. And that was the threshold. And so, you see this, you see everybody in the space continue to grow with every exponential trend, with every big bull run. We see everybody's numbers go up and up and up. And that's just really great. It's great for the most part. Obviously, the scammers get those numbers too. But you see all of the people that you have seen been working hard year after year finally get some more views and finally get some more attention. And that's just really, really great. And of course, now the space continues to grow. And, Tone is over 150,000 50,000 followers, and Andreas is over I think 500,000 plus. I know for sure Charlie Lee is over 500,000 plus, and I'm over 50,000. So, you know, this is a really, really important to do, is to hunker down during these bear trends, you know, work hard, get your stuff done, build this base, build this foundation. That's what really all these content creators that I know are doing right now. We're building this foundation. We're getting ready, preparing content, preparing information for the next bull run, because it will be here. It is inevitable. Bitcoin is an economic inevitability, you know, an economic certainty asserting itself in the world. This finite supply will continue to suck up value. So we're just all you know, getting prepared and ready for the next wave. And it really is this huge kind of polarization. This polarization continues, this polarization trend. You're sort of either all in crypto or you think it's a sham, right? Like it's a very, very, very polarizing. It's really, you're kind of really one or the other at this point. So build that foundation, you know, do this cross collaboration. That's really important. As Benny said, you know, trying to, if you're a content creator, if you're trying to educate people, make sure to, you know, to get on other people's podcasts, because this space is really friendly, really welcoming. If you really are honest with your intent, you know, if you're a scammer, if you're just trying to get rich quick, you know, people are going to see right through that. But if you actually have some intent to educate and really, you know, leave the world better off than when you found it, then there will be people that will help you out and lend a helping hand, because this is the space. You know, the planet itself is continuing, you know, to become better, continuing to get more lighter. Obviously, if you watch the mainstream news, you probably won't have that opinion, but you got to really get off the fire hose of that. Step off the fire hose of the mainstream media, and you will see that there is so many amazing things in the world, like Bitcoin, continuing to develop, and this community will grow with that next bull run, with that next wave. You're going to see all sorts of stuff. Heidi, your channel, you know, crypto tips, and of course Benny's channel, BTC sessions. I'm really excited to see the next wave lift you guys up as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same thing can be said. Like, you don't want to have a fair weather friend, number one, in a crypto project. They're only making developments or making announcements when the going is getting good. And also the same can be said for YouTubers or people, bloggers. They're only there, mostly scammers or shillers or whatever. They're only there to number one, take advantage of the vulnerable people who are only just now entering the space because they heard about it on the news, like that came through like mainstream media, and they're suddenly taking investment advice from them. And so, yeah, they'll play happily into the scammers' hands. But to pay attention now is something that's really important. And yeah, collaboration, that's like the number one lesson that I've learned this year is understanding that, like, how important it is to learn from other people and to, you know, collaborate. So, okay, we are almost at a 1 hour.
One second. I need one final point. Just one final point I just want to say is that, you know, like, just and to drive home, like Heidi said, you know, when you're building this foundation here in this bear market, you are building integrity, and integrity is going to be paramount in the space, in your career, through your life. So when you see people that are working hard and trying to educate during the bear market, you probably can get a good idea that they are here for the right reasons. And what everybody doesn't understand is that your viewership will not grow linearly. It will only grow linearly in sometimes for some short periods, you know, some short time spans, some short time periods. But eventually there will be times where it will be growing exponentially. It will be compounding. And that is only going to happen if you do it long enough, and if you have the real passion, and if you are bringing real value. There will be eventual exponential growth. Something that's gonna, you know, some kind of black swan event will happen. Something will trigger something, and your viewership will go up. Whether that is, you know, some type of event in crypto, or whether that is the crypto price rising, whatever it is, getting some, you know, getting retweeted by some famous person, whatever it is, you will reach a point that will push you to the next level, and that's where that exponential growth goes. So you will get an exponential hit eventually if you are really truly honest about what you're saying, and have integrity with what you're trying to educate with. You will eventually see those numbers if you try hard enough and you have the passion. I just want to make sure that, you know, people know that and understand that, because it's hard to start at zero. Everybody starts at zero. Benny started at zero. I started at zero. You know, of course, Heidi started at zero. We all start at zero, but with enough passion, you guys, you will be able to, you know, drive that home.
You hear that,
I bought all my followers.
No, you just have to do that collaboration with Naomi, do that a cappella thing, do a little dance move.
It's coming. I feel like that won't just put me up in the crypto space. I'll just be an international pop star at that point, and I can continue dancing and singing my way to fame.
Have you seen that Japanese group that they have like all the masks for the different cryptocurrencies? I forget their name.
Oh yeah, I'm in that group. I'm
I
not.
didn't recognize you because of the mask.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so let's finish this with one technical question. Do you think that Bitfury's Crystal project is good or bad for the future of Bitcoin? Ben, are you familiar with the Crystal project, and what are your thoughts on this?
I'm gonna need just a kind of like a Cliff's Note version of this.
It's a chain. It's a chain analysis company. Chain analysis company, just like chainanalysis.com. Yeah. Oh, you broke up. It's a pure chain analysis company, you know, giving information and working for government agencies and three-letter agencies.
Oh, fun. Oh, that's great. Well, I guess my favorite part of that is that shit's going to be broken when everybody's using Lightning Network. So, I mean, sure. You know what? When I see stuff like that that I don't like, I've learned to like it because that means somebody's now looking at it going, how do I break this? So, and that's everything in Bitcoin. It's always, oh, we didn't realize that this is not desirable. How do we route around it? You know, like there's always been the like technological barriers that we wanted to move past. We didn't like the current financial system, so something was built to route around it. Through the fork with Bcash, you saw for the first time social attacks on Bitcoins, trying to confuse people about what Bitcoin is, and a lot of people hated that. But guess what? That actually made things stronger because we're more and more resistant. You just look at the charts and you chart something, you chart BCH against BTC, and you see that those attacks become less and less effective. So every new challenge that comes for Bitcoin, I think privacy is the next big one. Sure, that's probably going to be the next big source of FUD, I think. I think maybe going into this next year, that's going to be a major point where people start to get worried, but I think it's only a matter of time before it gets solved. So with each new challenge, like Bitfury doing, what's it called? Crystal, you know, it makes me like Bitfury less. So, I mean, they've accomplished something there. But as far as what they're doing there, I'm excited to see how somebody breaks it. So that's my take there.
Vortex, what are your thoughts on the Crystal project? Do you think it will solidify Bitcoin even more? Because yeah.
Well, there's always this cat and mouse, you know, between the state and the people that want to remain outside of the state's control. And so this is the story of Bitcoin. This is why Bitcoin was created, you know, to have this monetary system, this currency, this payment network, this sound money, this digital gold outside of the state, outside of the state's control, outside of the state's ability to debase. And so this is, you know, going to be an ongoing fight with Bitcoin. Remember, you know, Bitcoin continues to fail to scale gracefully, right? As Andreas always says, there's always going to be another issue there waiting for Bitcoin to solve. So of course, fungibility is important, but scalability was something we needed to address first. And so we've done that now with the Lightning Network, and there's some other technology actually that's in the works still that will help with scalability as well. But now I think the main focus is now shifted towards privacy. This is what a lot of the core developers, like Greg Maxwell, this is a lot of what is dominating the conversation right now when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto, is this essence of privacy, because we see this institutional investment come down, right? This huge institutional investment narrative, but alongside that narrative, just like, you know, cat and mouse, just like two sides of the same coin, alongside that same narrative will be a privacy narrative. And this is what we're seeing. So we're seeing amazing technology like from Adam Fiskor that is in the chat here today, Mr. Noparo73, who we all love, you know, creating things like the Wasabi wallet with Chaumium coin joins. That's going to be really, really cool. The ability to join your coins with other people to mask where they came from and the amounts. That's going to be really important. We have, you know, Schnorr signatures that's going to help with scalability and privacy as well. There's just so much stuff coming down the pipe. And remember, there's always going to be something else to fix. There's always going to be something else that we want to do. And so same with the internet, you know, we went from no video at all, right? To video, then to 1080p, then to 4K, and on and on and on we'll go. So this will be the same with privacy. Remember, privacy, decentralization, fungibility, these are not binary outcomes. These are scales. These are scales that we can measure from one side to the other. And Bitcoin still remains the most decentralized public blockchain out there, in my opinion. It is the only decentralized public blockchain at scale available today. And so it will continue to have work drawn to it. It will continue to have more and more features added to it. But for now, we're really seeing the privacy sort of narrative take off, and a lot of great work being done there. There's just so much work. I mean, even confidential transactions will one day, in the few years down the road, they'll eventually make it to Bitcoin in some form or another. Like, for example, right now, you could argue that it sort of already made it to Bitcoin in the form of Liquid sidechain. They use confidential transactions in that network. So it can arguably said that it's already sort of made it to Bitcoin in one way, but there will be much more technology coming down the pipe for privacy specifically, because fungibility will be, that's going to be really the next big thing, fungibility and privacy. That's going to be the next thing that everybody sort of focuses on in Bitcoin. Because again, scalability for the most part has been solved with layers like Lightning and Liquid.
For sure. So we're just going to have to be keeping our eye on Liquid, Lightning, and other kind of privacy techniques that are going to be coming to Bitcoin. So definitely some trends to keep an eye on. So thanks for that. Thank you both. I'm going to wrap it up. I think we're here for about an hour. Vortex, thank you as always for your insights. Ben, it was great having you. Where can people find you, Ben? Where can they get more?
Yeah. Sure. You can get more Ben at BTC Sessions on YouTube. Pretty easy to find. I've got a goofy cartoon picture of me up there, so easy to find. Same on Twitter. You can find me at BTC Benny, and that's probably where I'm most active as far as like actually corresponding with people. So yeah, feel free to follow me there at BTC Benny and BTC Sessions on YouTube.
Very cool. And Vortex, where can people find more of you? Maybe get some information on your programming classes that you are offering, what you're working on, what's going on with Vortex.
Yeah. So just thanks everybody for joining. Thank you guys so much. Everybody in the chat, even the trolls, we love them. We love them. So thank you, Benny, so much for joining, man. Had a great time, as I knew we would. Benny, again, has been in the space for years now, so he's got a lot of insight into the space with with his YouTube channel. He's spoken to a great number of people in the space already. So thank you so much again, Benny. And of course, thank you, Heidi, so much for hosting this. It's really, I always have a really good time here. And really, the only thing I guess I want to really plug is probably Tone Vase's conference. That's going to be really big. I'm really excited about this. Tone Vase is going to have a conference in good old Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada, January 23rd through 26th. And I'm really looking forward to that, because there's going to be like a lot of it's going to be a Bitcoin, not blockchain conference. So there's going to be a whole lot of talk about Bitcoin. There's going to be only Bitcoiners there for the special guest. And for example, like Peter Todd and Max Kaiser and, a bunch of great people in there. Of course, Tone himself being a Bitcoin maximalist, Jimmy Song is going to be there, Leah, the whole gang. I'm really looking forward to that. There's going to be a poker tournament, with a 0.1 BTC buy-in. And then eventually that will go to a celebrity. The winners will go to a celebrity poker tournament. So just lots of exciting stuff. And I'm really excited about that. And just on a side note, again, about some of the privacy and fungibility tech, some people mentioned it in the chat that I didn't get a chance to mention. But I mean, there's just a couple other things. We have Dandelion, bulletproofs, stonewalling. There's just one thing after another, guys, that Bitcoin is going to increase its fungibility with. So that is not really a large concern long term. Of course, it's a concern short term right now, but we're really excited for the tech coming down the line. So, but thanks again, guys, so much for joining. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you again, Heidi. And again, guys, we'll have the audio feed for this within about 24 hours or so of the YouTube stream going up. And please join us again every Thursday, guys. We've changed the time now. So we've changed the time to 12 o'clock Pacific now. So every Thursday, guys, 12 o'clock Pacific, get your questions ready. We will have somebody new on the show for you.
Yeah, and if you enjoy this show and you enjoy what CryptoCast and you appreciate what the CryptoCast network is doing, of course, you can leave a friendly little donation of Bitcoin thanks to the QR code you can find on the YouTube channel and the website. So those links can be found on the YouTube channel as well. Yes, thank you everyone for taking part in the crypto chat. Very active there today. Maybe next time we can get a few more questions. But yeah, I think this was a success. So I will see you next Thursday. Bye.